We have ourselves a 2-2 series in the West, but out East, the Knicks are dominating in historic fashion. Plus, we have some new updates on lottery reform. We're going to talk about all of that and more on today's All-NBA show. What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with 150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllCity. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague on this weekend, Marc Stein, as we are rounding the corner towards the NBA Finals. How are you doing today, Marc?
Adam Mares, the Spurs win and the Knicks win.
Yeah? Yeah, that's how it went this weekend. You know who didn't win?
No, the Knicks won again tonight. This thing's going long, and the Knicks are just...
Yeah. Do you think that matters? I mean, the finals, you get a nice break anyway, but they will have an extended break if they're able to close this out in 4. Do you think it matters?
I think it matters. Yeah, just because the Spurs and the Thunder they're beating the hell out of each other. So I do think that... Look, the Knicks are going to be the underdog in the finals. And yes, we're going to take the leap and say that they are not going to be the first team in league history to blow a 3-0 lead. So I do think it helps them. OG Anunoby's still working his way back. It's just, why not? If you're the Knicks, you would welcome it. You would take it.
And they are playing well. We're going to start by talking about them. But real quick, I'll just say, because we do Hockey Corner to start everything, teams that have not won since last week. Last week, do you remember last week, Marc? What a great week it was. You're at a Game 7 with your Sabres. Avs are undefeated, looking great, ready to go into this conference finals. Neither of our teams have won since then. It's been all misery.
Yeah, it's been a challenging sports week, to say the least. Probably the less I say, the better.
I think this I was just saying this before we went live. This might be the worst year in Denver sports history, factoring in the Broncos losing Bo Nix.
You don't really mean that.
I do mean it. Like, there have been years where all 3 teams have been worse, but there's one thing when it's like, all right, none of our teams are good this year, whatever. All 3 of them had a semi-realistic shot at winning a championship this year, and they're all going to end up going out both sad and injury plagued. And it's like, man, I'm telling you, I'll get 3 gut punches, three major sports, 3 gut punches so far this year.
I've been so upset about the Sabres losing our Game 7. What are the Avs? Where are the Avs and Knights? I don't even know that series score.
They are, in fact, down 3-0. I'm glad you asked that. It's really rough. They lost both at home, and now they just lost this third one. After leading 3-0 at the end of the first period, they're going to lose this Game 3. So nobody wants to hear about hockey. They want to hear about this. By the way, if you're tuning in, the game breakdown of this game that we just saw, the Spurs and the Thunder, we're actually going to break down both games tomorrow on the All-NBA show with Tim Legler. But on this one, I always like to get Marc Stein's opinion on things that are going on in the NBA and what people behind the scenes are saying. And I'm just going to start. I told you we're going to talk about the Knicks. Here's the thing I've been kicking around all week, which is that the Knicks have been truly impressive in this playoffs. Like, truly impressive, historically impressive. And I think we're looking at this Western Conference Finals. It's been building up all year between the 2 best teams in the league. But I'm sitting here wondering, are people around the league looking at the numbers, the dominance, the versatility, the ability to win different ways with this Knicks team? And is there any momentum that, hey, man, it's not just that they have a shot going to the finals should they advance and go to the finals, that the numbers are telling us they're historically great, and the numbers are telling us they're the best team in the playoffs. Are people talking about this at all behind the scenes?
The focus is the Thunder Spurs series because those 2 teams have been the 2 best teams in the league. But look, the Knicks have not been to the NBA Finals this century. They have since 2 one-point losses in a row to Atlanta. They've been rolling. I mean, they have been a monster. 10 wins in a row. The scoring margin is significant. So the Knicks getting back on that stage for the first time since 1999. And of course, they were injury compromised in 1999. Like, this really is their best chance in more than 30 years since the 94 finals that went 7 with Houston. And I don't know that it's there yet, but I just think because it's the Knicks, there will be a frenzy of anticipation, hype, and it's not here yet, but it is en route. And look, they're going to be the underdog against either Western Conference winner, either team that comes out of that series. But I think that helps them too.
I agree.
It's going to be a momentous finals, really. However, we're either going to get the Knicks' first championship in more than 50 years, or Wemby's first championship, or the first repeat champion we've seen with the Thunder since the Dynastic Warriors in 2017 and 2018. So because of that, one way or another, the champion this season, it's going to be a huge deal, great significance, and there will be lots of eyeballs on it. With the Knicks in it, it doesn't, like, that's guaranteed now. And I think either opponent, I mean, Knicks Spurs would be not just a rematch of 99, but just a huge fascination if Victor Wembanyama gets on the final stage the first time he goes to the playoffs. And again, because it's been so long since we've seen a repeat champion, the Thunder having that opportunity is another huge storyline. But look, tonight, no Jalen Williams, no AJ Mitchell. I mean, that is a lot for the Thunder to go without. And can they win 2 more games in this series if they don't have those 2 guys? I think it's a very fair question.
It's just been the story of this playoffs, too, is the injuries and how teams are able to adjust, how long they're able to hold on. We've seen teams win a game or even big games down major players, but the question is, can you keep doing that? You can get one. That's impressive enough. Can you keep doing it? I want to circle back, though, about this no repeat champions, because I hear a lot of people, a lot of big pundits talk about this as it's a big deal. Do you think it's a big deal to the league? Is this a badge of honor for the league that there haven't been repeat champions? And is there almost a weird hope for it, as this idea that, hey, it feels like anyone can win it?
Does Legler count as a big pundit?
Sure. Why not? Yes, of course he is.
No, I think the NBA has definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Because
that's kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah,
it does, everybody thinks they have a chance, and it's unprecedented. We've never seen 7 different champions in 7 consecutive seasons at any point in NBA history. So I do think the NBA has enjoyed it, but someone's going to end it. And look, I just don't know if the Thunder are healthy enough right now. I mean, the Spurs were really good tonight. Wemby was back to his alien best. They did a great job defensively on SGA, and the Thunder shot the 3 terribly. But again, the Thunder were missing 2 major pieces. And look, I suppose Mitchell has a shot to come back. That's not reporting. That's more of an instinct thing. But the Jalen Williams hamstring issue has been an issue for literally months now. And they miss him, clearly.
What else about the Knicks are people talking about? And what's interesting, I mean, obviously they were a very good team this regular season. But they truly have. It's not like they're lucking up and winning some of these games and it's just a magical year. They're dominating. And that's why I'm kind of surprised that nobody has taken the bait. Like, even this deep into it, 10-game win streak, you still hear people say, well, there'll be major underdogs going up against whoever comes out of the West. And I'm sitting here thinking the playoffs are different. If you just watch the playoffs, you'd say they're the best team. So what else are people saying about them?
Well, because usually we look at point margin, and when point margin is lopsided, we do use that as an indicator of future success, a very reliable indicator of future success. But the problem is, and this is not the Knicks' fault, they're playing who they play, but they're coming up against, teams that, the East is just much easier than the West, and the Cavs have just, for the Cavs to take a 22-point lead in game 1 and lose that game, it's about as bad a playoff loss as you'll see.
Yeah. And
very predictably, they've looked awful since then. So, by virtue of who they're coming up against, I think that's taking the shine off it for some people. But Knicks fans certainly don't care. And again, I don't like to get into, does the league office love this? Is this what they secretly want? But Knicks in the finals, yes, that's what that is what they very not so secretly want. I mean, they will be giddy.
How about Mike Brown? What's the conversation there?
That's
Because
another one. I mean, Mike Brown at best was the 6th choice for this job. Remember,
I do. You're right. I forgot about this.
Remember that the Knicks, Jason Kidd was their
Jason
top
Kidd.
choice, but they asked for permission to speak to Jason Kidd, Ime Udoka, Quinn Snyder, Chris Finch, and Billy Donovan. All of those teams said no. Jason Kidd and Billy Donovan both got contract extensions and no longer coach the teams where they were a year ago.
This is so wild.
Like, and so the Knicks turned to Mike Brown. It really looked like the Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau without a plan to replace the first coach who had taken them to the conference finals this century. And for things to turn around to this degree, the teamwork, the way that team has come together, the way Karl Anthony Towns has embraced a new role, the way Mikal Bridges, who has been so maligned for how many draft picks he cost the Knicks and the level that he's been playing in these playoffs. I mean, again, since those 2 1-point losses to Atlanta that really had all of Manhattan in a panic, they have responded with 10, not perfect, but pretty dang flawless performances. And as long as they finish this thing off and sweep the Cavs, and then we have 8 days of buildup. It's an 8-day rest they earn themselves if they finish this thing off Monday night. So you have to be impressed. And yeah, Mike Brown fired by the Cavs twice. Do you think he wants to win this series?
I think you're right. I didn't even think of that angle coming into the series. It does make me think, like, just the way the NBA unfolds, it always makes me think about where things are going. And the Nuggets had an interesting end-of-year press conference when they talked about Josh Kroenke addressed the media, and he talked about how there's some complacency in the organization that he didn't realize had arrived since the championship year. And we all try to, like, really understand who or what could he be talking about. I think some of this is probably players. He mentioned players are in different points of their life. But one of the things I'm arriving at is that maybe the complacency he was talking about was stylistic complacency. That it was, maybe the Nuggets have been running an identity for 10 years and that it's just important to evolve. That is the story of the Knicks. That they also had a system that they ran for years. And Mike Brown comes in and you didn't see it immediately, but over time you see that it's like, hey, many of the same pieces, new coach, and the team has evolved into a new identity. And I just wonder how much of the league is sitting back and wondering, it's hard to make moves with your roster. It's hard to make big trades. But you know what? Can the game evolve? Can we evolve ourselves from an identity? And to me, that's what Mike Brown brought. And I just wonder if that's going to be one of the takeaways this year as we watch how this playoffs unfold as, hey, the league keeps evolving. Even successful teams have to evolve with it.
Well, that was the skepticism. When the Knicks made this change, a lot of people were wondering, how different are they really going to be with Mike Brown? Mike Brown has not won a championship as a head coach, but he had a good stint in Golden State in a championship program as a top assistant. And look, he's getting buy-in from these guys. It's not just Jalen Brunson. There are several Knicks who are playing, Karl Anthony Towns has been fantastic and he's adapted his game. He's changed his game some as this postseason has gone on. Landry Shamet has been better than ever as a support shooter on this team. I mean, nobody was anticipating this. I think this is the second straight season Landry Shamet is on a minimum deal. And it always helps when you find a major contributor on a minimum. That's huge. And again, I do on one hand, there's so much pressure on the Knicks because, I actually remember talking to Carmelo Anthony about this at the start of the season when he was just starting out as a broadcaster with NBC. And I was given the chance to interview him, maybe 1 or 2 games into his broadcasting career. And I remember asking him, when you are a Knick, how much does that weight? How much do you feel it as a player? And he acknowledged that it is significant. And I'm sure that's going to come up a lot. That on one hand, San Antonio or Oklahoma City will be favored to win these finals against the Knicks. And that's that's a good position to be in. But on the other hand, the Knicks are so tantalizingly close now. And their fans want this so, so badly, 53 years. So it's going to be fascinating to see how kind of the Knicks deal with that expectation. And, if you want to make the case that the 8 days off is bad, that's where I would say I don't love it for them.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be 8 days of finals hype that they're going to have to manage and tune out, and let's see how they handle that.
You feel this way for the Super Bowl, where the Super Bowl you get 2 weeks off and there's so much media, everything's different. I experienced this obviously in 2023 because it was in Denver, the only finals I've attended, but it is very different. You go from the first round to the second round, it's no different. Second to third round, it's really no different. But when you go into the NBA Finals, there's media day, there's the foreign press is here, there's hundreds. You go from dozens of people covering it to hundreds, and so would you agree with me? I've only experienced it once. You've obviously covered a ton of finals, but to me, it does feel more like the Super Bowl, where everything, the rhythm of it all changes.
Yeah, look, and you've got Jokic, who is fantastic at tuning out the noise and not even realizing it. But obviously, the Knicks and the amount of coverage and buildup that finals is going to get, without even knowing the opponent, like Thunder Spurs might be going 7. So if the Knicks can finish this thing off Monday night, I mean, it could be another 3, 4, 5 days before they even know who they're playing.
Yeah.
That's not going to matter, though. Like, this is New York, media capital of the United States. Yeah, it's going to be noisy.
It's going to be exciting. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, I do want to ask about the Cavs' perspective of this, because what I saw in Game 3, we'll talk about it, but it was very ugly from a Cavs perspective in Game 3, which makes me wonder what we're going to see tomorrow night in Game 4. But also, lottery reform. Finally, we're rounding the corner here, and there's some very interesting details I want to ask you about when we get to that on the other side. And it's the most electric time in basketball. In Kalshi, you can trade every single playoff game, every series, the conference finals, and the championship. Let me update you guys right now on the market here. Right now, the Oklahoma City Thunder, even after this game, they're down 12%. They're trading at 47%, still dominant in terms of the best odds, almost 50%. New York has moved up to 25%, San Antonio at 28%. I'm so curious how that's going to change here based on what happens here in Game 5. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there is no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use the code ALLNBA to get $10 when you trade 10. It's really easy to sign up, so remember this code. It's for free money, ALLNBA. You get $10 when you trade 10, so maybe you want to buy a position on the Knicks if you're really feeling it right now. 26%, you get a great return on that one. KALSHI, Kalshi, trade on anything, 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Summer season. Summer's just a month away here, but we already got the sunshine going, and you guys know where to get your shades over at Shady Rays, because they've got that deal that has totally changed the game. They've got sunglasses that are made for real life, seriously good looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. But the wild part is, if you lose or break them even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements, so you can wear your sunglasses without fear. On hikes, at a concert, on a boat, wherever it is you're going, Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. Go to shadyrays.com, use the code ALLCITY for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Back here, segment 2 of the All-NBA Show, and I'm with Marc Stein, the weekend edition of the All-NBA Show. And I want to ask about the Cavs now, because the Cavs piece of this, we have seen some teams get dispirited late in series, and the Knicks, by the way, have done this. Remember the Atlanta game, 61-point lead. They kind of break people's spirits towards the end of the series, but none is bad. Even Atlanta, I feel like they just got hit with a haymaker, and it kind of was what it was. But I thought, and I don't know how you feel, that the Cavs in Game 3 it felt to me like they were truly broken. And there was the highlight play where Jalen Brunson kind of snakes his way into the paint, walks to the basket, and all 5 Cavs players at one point looks at him and just watches him go, and they put their heads down and walk to the bench. I feel like you make it to the conference finals, it's a success. But then you lose this kind of way. It's just, Where are the Cavs at? And what would a loss, if it's an embarrassing sweep in the conference finals, how do we evaluate their season and what's next for them?
They're in that club with Minnesota and Denver. Yep. They are looking at nothing but difficult decisions. And let's face it, they lost this series after game 1.
Yes.
And normally in the NBA, the outside world, all of us in the basketball public, when you see a team blow a game like that, 22-point lead on the road, a chance to steal game 1, we overreact and we say they'll never recover. And frequently in the NBA, teams actually do recover from or make somewhat of a recovery from a loss like that. The Cavs have not. The Cavs blew that game, and you heard after the game 3 loss, they're still talking about it. They know it. That was their chance. The Knicks came into these conference finals on a roll. The Cavs were just making that quick turnaround after outlasting Detroit. They had the Knicks down. They blew that game, and they have reverted back to the worst of, in the first half of the season, they were a very average team. And again, now, they're the only second apron team in the NBA.
Right.
You can't stay in the second apron. So right away, they have to do some level of dismantling. And, I fully expect the Knicks to complete the sweep, and then the questions all start. Will Donovan Mitchell extend this summer? Donovan Mitchell is contract extension eligible on July 7th. We talk so much about Giannis. Giannis isn't contract extension eligible until October 1st. Donovan Mitchell, contract extension eligible on July 7th. Will he extend? If he will not extend, do the Cavs have to field trade offers for Donovan Mitchell? Even if the Donovan Mitchell situation resolves itself, can Kenny Atkinson come back as coach after a conference finals like this? What is the move Cleveland is going to make to get themselves out of the second apron? Will this finally be the offseason that they trade Jared Allen? Because that phone is going to be ringing as soon as, maybe not as soon as Cleveland season's over, but it won't take long. And then James Harden. The assumption was he would not have pushed for a trade from the Clippers to the Cavs at the February deadline if he was not confident in the extreme that he was going to get a multi-year contract extension rather than wait to see how the Clippers were going to handle the team option on his deal. But how can you give James Harden a multi-year contract extension? He's still a very good player, but he's not having a great playoffs. He's 37. How do you give him a multi-year deal? So all of these questions are confronting the Cleveland Cavaliers. And then Evan Mobley. We know they don't want to trade him, but what if that is their best move? Would they use Mobley to try to get into the Giannis sweepstakes? We can go on. The Cavs are as fascinating a team because of all these questions about their future as any team you want to pick.
You know what I'm fascinated by all of this, Mark, is we are new to the second apron, and they are the only second apron team, as you mentioned. I'm kind of curious how painful it is for them to get out of it, because it's one thing when you have an expensive roster, but there's not these other moving parts, because you feel like, okay, we went all in and we can get off money now. We can make trades. But the second apron does make things a little bit more difficult. And I wonder how much of the league, and maybe you can give some insight, how much of the league is looking at them and seeing how hard is it for them to navigate this, or is going into the second apron one of those things where it ruins them and they have to lose a Mobley or they have to lose a big player they didn't want to, but it's that was the only way they could skirt and get out of the second apron. So do you think teams are watching them and just trying to read, this is our first second apron example, let's see how they are able to navigate that?
I think everyone dreads the second apron. They don't need to see what's happening with the Cavs, but they're certainly looking at the Cavs as a team. Jared Allen has had suitors for so long, and they surely don't want to trade Mobley. I don't think they want to trade Jared Allen either, but you're going to have to do something. And Jared Allen is the guy that I think everyone is going to come after. So Yeah, I'm with you. I don't on, May 24th, 25th know how the Cavs are going to get out of the second apron. All I know is they have to get out of the second apron. So they're going to have to choose a course one way or the other that they're probably not going to like. I mean, trading Garland for Harden was supposed to be the first step because the thought was, okay, Harden will sign a multi-year deal, but his annual number will come down from the 39 million where it's at this season. But I don't think it's going to come down enough to to get him out of the second apron by himself by itself. Like more moves are going to be needed. And again, we talk about the Nuggets, we talk about the Timberwolves, teams that have to shed salary to create some flexibility. That's why, there is not a ton of anticipation about free agency in the modern NBA.
Yeah.
Because no one ever has cap space, and the best free agents all do extensions. But there is great anticipation about this summer's trade market because there are going to be trades. There have to be trades. Too many teams need to loosen things up. So we are going to see trade action.
The last thing I want to ask you about today, and then we're going to get to the All-NBA teams here at the very end, but the last thing I wanted to ask you about was this lottery reform now. It looks like the proposal is ready to go in front of the ownership groups. And I'm curious about one of the details that came out this week that shed some light on it was we have this provision where you cannot get a top 5 pick 3 years in a row. If you get it 2 years in a row, the third year, even if you won the lottery, you would fall back to the next highest position that you're eligible for. But what came out this week was that who owns the eligibility there? If you've won it 2 years in a row and you traded that pick away, then whoever received the pick is the thing that is ineligible. So even if it went to, say, the Wizards won it 2 years in a row and the Wizards traded that to the Orlando Magic and the Orlando Magic with that pick won the lottery, that lottery would that number 1 pick would still fall to number 6. I feel like this is a horrible detail in all of this. And I can't imagine it would get passed. It would make it impossible to get trades. And then on top of that, how do you gamble on a pick like that with a bad team, not knowing that maybe they would end up having their pick be ineligible for top 5?
The more we learn about this proposal, there's only 2 things I like, Adam Mares. One of them is the relegation zone.
Yeah.
I do take my hat off to the league that even though it's not relegation like in European soccer that I love, but the NBA with the draft relegation zone is poised to become the first league that has found a way to just work relegation into its lexicon somehow.
Yeah.
And fans will like that. So that I'm good with. Yeah. And what that means is the teams with the 3 worst records next season will only have a 5.4% shot at number 1 as opposed to 8.1%. And the implication is that the teams in the bottom 3 are going to be trying desperately at the end of the season to get out of the bottom 3. I do like that. The only other thing I like, though, is that this new proposal is only going to be 3 years. Because the more we learn about it, the stuff you're talking about with the top 5 pick, you can't get top 5 3 years in a row. And it's, Memphis is the one that's really hurt by this.
They get hurt by it already. This is the thing that's crazy.
And it's got people feeling like they've overcorrected way too much. And the reality is the vote is Thursday.
Yeah.
So I don't think the proposal's changing. And Monday's a holiday. Right. I don't think the proposal's changing between Monday through Thursday. And knowing the NBA, I don't think the proposal is going to vote unless they're confident that it's going to pass. They need 23 of 30 teams to ratify this. If 23 of the 30 teams say yes, these are the new rules, and I think they're going to get their 23 votes.
You do?
And again, it wouldn't get this far if the NBA wasn't confident they were getting the 23 votes.
But no changes, Mark? You don't think there'll be any pushback to any of these details?
Listen, I don't know if the vote allows for pushback at this point. They're going to be voting on the proposal that's been put forth. So unless there's some unforeseen change to the proposal, again, the NBA office is closed on Monday. So there's got to be a change Tuesday or Wednesday before this thing, they're convening this special vote. there's not a board of governors session. This is just a special vote they've set up. So I suppose that if the NBA gets wind that, more than 7 teams are unhappy with this, that they'll do something. But I think the safer prediction is that it gets passed with at least 23 votes, and this is the new system for the next 3 years. And again, that's the best part to me, that because I think in 3 years, people are going to come away saying this is too stringent. They went too far.
Yeah. Well, I am so curious what happens, because I do hate all of these reforms and how much they can hurt a team. Like Memphis was the best example, but there's a lot of teams that have traded away first that you go, hey, with these new odds, would you have traded? Does that change past trades, the value of past trades? And the answer is unquestionably yes. And that, I just think that sucks.
Well, this is, for Memphis, this is part of the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade. And Utah's pick, there are a variety of protections on the pick. So it might not be Utah's pick, but if it is Utah's pick that is meant to be conveyed to the Grizzlies next June, it now can't be top 5 because of the rules, because the Jazz have picked in the top 5 2 years in a row. And that's where the Grizzlies, now surely they're going to be asked this question at some point, and they'll publicly answer it. Would the Grizzlies have done the trade? Would they have sent Jaren Jackson Jr. to Utah if they knew that this pick from Utah could not be higher than 6?
Absolutely not. And it just happened. To your point, it just happened. To me, this is malpractice from Adam Silver in the NBA to allow something when you just made a trade, not how many months ago, not that many months ago, and all of a sudden the terms of that trade are drastically different to me.
And just more generally speaking, picks in general are, everyone that Jake Fisher and I are talking to have been saying now since the Chicago draft combine, that in general, teams are not going to want to trade firsts, because with the flattened lottery odds, they want to keep those picks in case they get lucky and the number 9 pick wins the lottery.
Yep.
And so we might see less trades. We might see less picks in play. And that, we've been talking about, every time we've talked about lottery reform this season, I think either you or I, or probably both of us, have brought this up, that if this leads to less trade activity in general, just because fewer picks are in play, is that something the NBA really wants? I don't think so, because the NBA, when we talk about things they not so secretly love, trades are high on the list.
Yeah.
And we've seen a ton of trade action the last couple of years, because again, it's so hard to get free agents. Trades have been the way that the big names in the league move. And if trades just got even harder because of these reforms, I think there's going to be a lot of regret.
Well, let's wrap up today's show by going to our new segment here, Market Watch, of course, presented by Kalshi. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use the code ALLNBA. Get $10 when you trade 10, KALSHI, Kalshi. Trade on anything. Let's go now to the All-NBA teams, which were just dropped today. And let me lay them out for you. SGA, Jokic, Wembanyama, Luka, Cade Cunningham. Love it. That's first team. Feel like we nailed it. Second team, Jaylen Brown, Kawhi Leonard, Donovan Mitchell, Kevin Durant, Jalen Brunson. Very good. Third team, Maxey, Murray, Jalen Johnson, Duren, and Holmgren. And that second to last one is the big one. Jalen Duren makes first team All-NBA, which means he is now eligible for a Supermax. I think to me it seems obvious, but maybe I'm wrong. There's no way you can offer a huge contract like that to Jalen Duren after these playoffs. But this is kind of the first time I've felt this way. There's been guys that are questionable on the mark. To me, he's a surefire. There's just no way you can do that with him.
He's not a $290 million player on the Mares scale?
Not on the Mares scale, man. Not on the Mares scale. 10 points, 9 rebounds.
And that's where, we've talked about Cleveland, Denver, Minnesota being in this undesirable club where everybody's looking at what kind of moves they're going to make to try to create some flexibility. And Detroit sneakily has some real tough decisions to make themselves, because you just said, Duren is now eligible for a 5-year, $287 million max. There's no way the Pistons are going to want to pay anything close to that. Now, the most teams can offer in a 4-year deal to try to steal him away is a little bit shy of $180 million. he's a restricted free agent. You've basically got the Bulls, the Nets, and the Lakers are the only 3 teams that will probably be able to create the kind of cap space. I don't see any of those teams putting down a 177 over 4 offer for Duren. So that negotiation is going to be fascinating. Restricted free agency last summer, you remember, with Kuminga, Giddey, Quentin Grimes, Cam Thomas, those guys. Now, Cam Thomas ended up taking the qualifier, but the other guys, it took up the whole summer. So in Detroit, a lot of curiosity about what sort of trades they might make to get some shooting help for Cade Cunningham. But yeah, how do you handle Jalen Duren? Because I know a lot of people north of the border are very unhappy that Scotty Barnes was not on that All-NBA third team. Scotty Barnes, no all-defensive player nod, no all-NBA. Yeah, I mean, sorry, no. What did I say? No all-defense nod and no all-NBA nod.
Yeah.
I mean, Scotty Barnes is he deserved a lot better than that.
What I wonder about, the Warriors played, I guess you could say, hardball, and the Bulls played hardball as well in their restricted free agent, negotiations here. But a part of me wonders with this new second apron, if it's just in the team's interest. You never want to really frustrate players that you value. But I do wonder if we're in this era where restricted free agency is so tough, going into free agency in general, who has cap space? A player like Duren, I just wonder if Detroit's approach, teams don't usually do this. They don't want to pay top dollar, but they're never going to really lowball a guy. But I wonder if Duren is an example where the Pistons' best bet is to be like, you know what, you'll get over this. But the market's against you. Your playoff performance is against you. We actually have a very advantageous spot for us to actually be kind of tough on you and sign you to the cheapest long-term deal we can get you to agree to, which might actually be lower than people think. Do you think teams will try that in today's second apron? Just say, you know what, we don't usually do this, but let's just not worry about pissing them off.
You make it sound so pleasant, like if the negotiations could really go
This is why I'm not a GM, right?
I'm actually choking, trying to imagine that is how the conversation could go. I don't think it's going to go that pleasant. I must say. I'm actually looking it up here.
But what choice does he have? There is no free agency for Jalen Duren. There is no of these other options. You kind of have him in a corner.
I was trying to look up who his agent is for some reason.
I have it right here. It was Chaffee. What is it? With Wasserman Group. I just had it.
It ain't going to be that pleasant. Yeah, I mean,
Chaffee Fields.
I thought it was great that the deadline for Duren's rookie class was the night before opening night, and I loved that Duren said, "Nope, I'm not taking whatever's on the table now. I'm betting on myself. I want to go to restricted free agency." He obviously had a great regular season, first time All-Star. Ends up making an All-NBA team because there were so many injuries and so many guys didn't make it. But yeah, I mean, I would love to be a fly on the wall for how that one goes. Cause
yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see how it goes. There is some interesting restricted free agents this year, but like I said, how many teams actually have the ability, let alone the will, to offer a big contract to Jalen Duren after that playoffs? Not many. Pistons could use that leverage.
Bulls need a big man.
Okay. Let's see it happen. Let's see it, Chicago. Everybody, go ahead and cue that outro music, Atticus. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on this Sunday. We always appreciate it on the weekend. We try to give you a behind-the-scenes look and everything Marc Stein is hearing. Tomorrow, Tim Legler is back ahead of Game 4, which he will be calling courtside. So he was there for Game 3. He's been there for all of them. Can't wait to get his take on those games, as well as tonight's games, as the Spurs even the series. So we're going to be breaking down both series on tomorrow's show. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the like button. Get a good night's sleep. We'll see you in the morning.
We all silly like the mayor.